Men aren't addicted to scrolling, drinking, and video games. They're addicted to escape, and hardly anybody's talking about this. And this is why. But let me explain. Hey guys, welcome back to the Anchor Show. My name is Andrew, and today I'm going to be looking at why do we spend so much hours on our phone scrolling endlessly, or when it's not the phone, we're engaged in other unhealthy practices or habits, such as, just spending hours on the video games, watching TV endlessly. Some of us turn to drinking. Who's not drinking is on some sort of substance. But why? For starters, we are overstimulated and emotionally drained. Men are flooded with all sorts of different dopamine hits throughout any given day, such as, the phones with social media and multiple social media platforms, might I add. The video games is there, Netflix is there, fast food is there. It's all these different dopamine hits, and of course it feels good, right? It feels great to just be able to sit back, relax, be unbothered, and just be on your phone scrolling, looking at whatever it is that you enjoy looking at, and for those of us who are into video games, that too feels good. It's all about being on your game, playing for hours and, trying to dominate that game, right? All of these things feel great, right? Some people like to drink. Some people gotta have at least a 6-pack per day. But why though? Right? Why is it that we engage in so many unhealthy habits? Because let's be honest, that's what they really are. These are unhealthy habits. Why are we engaged in so much of that instead of using our time wisely to be productive? And the answer is simply because it's an escape. But what are we escaping from? We are escaping from the pressures of society. We're escaping from the pressures of other people's expectation. Because let's be honest, right? A lot of what's expected of us, a lot of what is asked of us as men is not from ourselves. Have you ever stopped and think about that for a moment? A lot of the things that are asked of us and from us, it's not from ourselves. It's always from other people. It's always from society and other people, right? And no wonder why men are so stressed out, overwhelmed, depressed, etc., and need to seek these escape routes, if you will, in whether it's being on the phone for endless amount of time, or whether it's being on the phone for hours just scrolling aimlessly, or go get lost in a video game or in a movie or in a series, or just go drink. Some people smoke. It's just different methods of escape that we seek out, and it's to escape the pressures of society and some honestly unrealistic expectation, right? When you look at the times that we're currently living in, the economic situation that everybody's facing right now, there are still people who have high expectation that the average guy cannot meet. And the average guy cannot meet that not because he's lazy, not because he's non-ambitious or anything like that, but simply because the way how things are set up and designed, it is difficult for him to meet those expectations. It is difficult for him to give what is being asked of him, right? And sometimes you're doing your best, but your best is not enough. Imagine you're pouring out the very best of you, but it's not enough. Eventually you're gonna get to a point where you're done, you're tired. You just want to find somewhere to go, get lost and just, so you can't be bothered, right? But that's one of the reasons we're overly stimulated and emotionally starved, right? The only time that you're gonna feed your emotion, think about it, on the TV, like anything that you turn on, right? On the radio, anything that's gonna truly feed and nourish your emotions in a positive way, you have to intentionally go seek that out, right? If you don't intentionally seek it out, you're just surrounded by all sorts of negativity. And and that feeds off your energy and just drain you, right? And that's how you just get comfortable in scrolling for hours with no point, right? And that brings me to my next point, which is scrolling is socially acceptable. What do I mean by that, right? If you see somebody sitting around on their phone for hours, just scrolling, laughing, smiling, scrolling, right? Yeah, okay, you're gonna look at them and like, what are you doing? You know, you probably judge them a little bit like, man, you've been doing this for hours, but you're not necessarily gonna put them down, right? Because it's socially acceptable. Now, if the same person stressed out, miserable, and instead of scrolling on their phones, they're drinking and they just keep throwing it back, 6 bottles, 7 bottles, or 6 shots, 7 shots, right? And then start to get drunk and start acting out. That's not socially acceptable, right? The same thing with if they were to roll up a joint and start smoking, those things are not considered socially acceptable, but scrolling is, right? So it makes it easy for people to escape any which where they go, right? I remember not very, very long ago, right? I remember there was a point in time, this is probably like, I don't know, between 15 and 20 years ago, somewhere around that point, right? You could go into an office building, any sort of, place of business, and in the waiting area, it's nothing but books and magazines, right? So if you want to read, you can go read, right? And usually back then, people would have conversations because there's nothing else to do. Even if you did have a phone, it's not a smartphone with all these lovely features on it, right? And so you would just be there for hours, just, waiting, talking, reading, etc., or just being your thoughts. Nowadays, people are on their phones. You're at the dinner table on your phone, right? It don't matter where you're at, what you're doing, you're on your phone. So it is socially acceptable. That is the reason why it's an easy escape for those who are looking for an escape. The next point is unhealthy habits give us men a sense of control. This is ironic and controversial at the same time. Why? Because it gives you a sense of control in the sense that you're in control of that moment and that situation. If you're playing your video game, right, you're going to probably be playing the video game on a mode that you can master, right? If I'm playing a video game, I'm not going to put it on the hardest level, so I'm losing from the very beginning. No, I'm starting off either at the easiest level or the next level up, but I'm starting at a level that is manageable where I can win. So I feel like I'm in control. I feel like I'm winning, right? The same thing too. It's anything else that you're doing, right? When people turn to substances, for example, or alcohol for an escape, it gives them a sense of control in that moment. Like, okay, I can control these thoughts and the situation that I'm dealing with right now by simply smoking this joint or drinking, having these drinks. But ironically, you're not really in control, because when you ingest these things, they are in control of you, not the other way around, right? But it's easy, and you feel like you're on top, you're managing, right? You're in control, and that's why we do it. The other reason why we engage in so many unhealthy habits instead of productivity is simply because some of us are running from ourselves, right? Some of us are running from ourselves and silence. The thing about it is that we have come to accept and embraced a life of noise and chaos, let's be honest, right? Some of us are afraid of silence. Some of us cannot stand when it's still. I mean, listen. That right there, that silence, that peace, that quietness, that stillness, some people cannot tolerate that. They can't. When it gets too still, too quiet, too silent, it's like they're about to lose their minds, right? And so now, what do I do to get over that? Let me get on my phone, right? And you just scrolling endlessly, right? Other people spend a lot of time on their phone, but they spend a lot of time on their phones doing business, making money, doing something constructive and being productive, right? But for those of us who are on phones just scrolling because it feels good and it's an escape, that's not getting us anywhere. We are running from our silence, and the reason behind that is because silence and stillness, it allows you the time and space to reflect inward. It brings awareness. It opens up the door for awareness. And some of us don't want to face the truth. We don't want to face our reality. You know, people nowadays, it's almost like it's just an easier thing to just shove things under the rug and just move on, right? Why do I need to go address the situation? It's so frustrating. It's so difficult. People don't like difficult. People do not like difficult. You understand? So instead of addressing the situation and facing ourselves and standing there and staring yourself in the mirror, we rather not. We rather just be on our phones or just doing something else just to distract ourselves and get away from having to face reality, right? And so another point is, this one is the last point I'm making, but it's also a controversial one. And the reality and the truth is that society benefits from distracted men. Let's be honest. If we are living in our purpose, if we are questioning the system, if we are questioning our reality, right? And truly work on changing things and improving our situation, that's not going to benefit society. Right? Society doesn't want independent thinkers and critical thinkers. Society wants sheeps. They want sheeps. They want followers. They want do as I sayers. They don't want people who can think for themselves and you know, act for themselves, act independently, think independently. No. Society benefits from that. And that is the reason why we have so much distraction around us. That's the reason why we have so much distraction. You can't go too far without running into a liquor store with lottery tickets. You can't go too far without running into a gas station. I mean, yes, you do need the gas for your cars, but what else is at the gas station? Liquor, poison food, junk food, lottery tickets. And we feed right into that. We feed right into that system by not being intentional about changing and improving our lives for the better, right? So again, because I'm naturally a solution-oriented person, I'm going to be talking about the solution. What is the solution to all of this? Yes, we are seeking an escape. Yes, we're overwhelmed. Yes, we're stressed, blah, blah, blah. We're just trying to find a way out. And this is the most comfortable, easiest thing to do. So we just indulge, right? That's not a solution, though. It's not a solution. Now, if you take the saying, sweeping things under the rug, right? If you sweep enough things under the rug, eventually you're going to have a little bit of a mound. And that mound is going to trip you over, right? If you leave it unattended, it's going to trip you over. You're going to fall. So with that being said, what is the solution? The solution is to find balance. The solution is to find balance, right? Yes, we are overwhelmed, stressed, tired, depressed, all that. I get it, right? But we can still find balance in our lives. And it's not going to come by chance. You're going to have to be intentional about that. You're going to have to be intentional. You are going to have to make sure that you are doing things that feeds your soul, nourishes your brain and your mind. It starts with lowering the amount of time you're spending on the phone. Whether you need to set an alarm, right? So if you know you're going to go on the phone and you're just going to scroll and you're just going to relax, okay, set an alarm. 30 minutes, 20 minutes, 15 minutes, an hour, whatever it might be. Set an alarm. Scroll. Once that alarm goes off, you're done. Either you're done for the day or you're done for that moment and you're going to do something productive. Set an alarm as well for doing something productive, right? Find something. Everybody has something within them. Find something and say, okay, all right, I'm going to spend the next hour or two working on this project or working on this skill set. right? So it's not cutting out these things entirely out of our lives, because I get it. I do understand, with all the stress and the pressure, we do need an escape. I get it. We do need an escape. Some dudes have the ability to choose and seek and practice healthy escapes, right? Some guys go to the gym. That's their escape. Go work out, go lift some weights, go, punch a punching bag, right? That's escape. Some people go running with music on or without music, but just running. That is an escape. Some people might just hop on their bike and go for a ride. Whatever it is, right? So some of us do have the ability to choose and practice healthy escapes, while others don't. Others struggle. So for those of us who are struggling, we have to make it intentional in choosing healthy habits, choosing healthy escapes, and reducing the ones you're currently doing, right? If you drink for an escape and you're drinking 6-pack in a sitting, okay, how about we cut that down to half? How about you try cutting it to half? So instead of the whole 6, let's do 3. Okay? I mean, because you're still enjoying that beer. You're not cutting it out altogether, but it's not as much. And by reducing your intake, it's not as damaging, right? So that's my thought. That is my suggestion, is let us try and be intentional about seeking healthier habits, right? To replace the negative ones that does not serve us, right? So and if it's difficult for you to just cold turkey cut it out, start by reducing it and gradually working your way down to the point where you can just stop, right? And replace those negative ones with more positive habits, right? Because at the end of the day, you can't turn your back on your dreams, not because something is, difficult or it's stressful or whatever. You can't turn your back on your dreams. Right? Some of us had dreams from since we were little kids, right? So don't turn your back on your dreams right now just because it gets difficult. When it gets difficult, that is a time to really dig your heels in and keep pushing forward. All right? Listen, guys, I hope that you got some value from this video. I hope that you're thinking, right? I like to think, and I love when you, my audience, think. I love when you think critically and ask yourself these difficult questions, right? Are you one of those people that are scrolling endlessly or indulging unhealthy habits because you're seeking an escape? And if you are, it's nothing to be ashamed of. It's just something to be aware of. And if you're one of those people, now that you're aware of it, what are you going to do? Right? You have the answers. Seek help. Go seek help for sure, right? If you can't do it on your own, go seek help. And so, because we're not going to give up on our dreams. You're not going to give up on your dreams. You're going to continue pursuing your dreams until you've achieved them. All right? So that is it for today, guys. Let us continue to grow, evolve, and transform into the best version of ourselves. Peace.